Good day to you all. Today, let us discuss about some of the key assumptions and approaches to social psychology. Society is rapidly changing due to the developments in all fields. The universal phenomena are most people expect and seek to be happy, lead a meaningful life, and want to overcome adversities they experience. The social psychologists try to work towards this and gain knowledge to turn the adversities into strength, achievements, and contentment. With the scientific approach, the social psychologists try to understand the social adversities like loneliness, devastating effects of social relationships, and try to examine the nature and causes of happiness. Normally, when we see the social behavior of people, many questions ponder our mind, like why do we behave indifferently or in a particular way? Why can't they get along with each other nicely? Why are they so self-conscious about others' opinion, or why they care so much about what others think about them? Why do people sometimes confirm but other times confront? Why the humans who make positive aspects in the society have also made negative aspects? Why are they so possessive about certain aspects? When psychologists try to understand these aspects, they analyze in a scientific way. They try to find where do the stereotypes of groups come from and how it affects the people who believe and view the members of the stereotypes. What kind of information do people use to infer the causes of another person's behavior? What is the role of family, mass media, peer group, political ideologies that affects the behavior? Social psychologists believe that human behavior is determined by both person's characteristics and the social situation. They also believe that the social situation is frequently stronger in influencing the character. To analyze these, the social psychologists established some core assumptions. First, behavior is determined by the combined or the joint effect of the persons and the situation. The second one, behavior depends on a socially constructed view of reality, that is, virtually all human thoughts, feelings, and actions involve people which are social in nature. Third one, behavior is strongly influenced by our social cognition. We must learn how people think about themselves and their social world. Fourth one, the best way to understand social psychology is to use the scientific method, which offers the best route to accurately understand social behavior. Now, let us discuss one by one. The first one, behavior is determined by the combined or joint effect of the person and the situation. These core assumptions are based on the proposal of Kurt Lewin, who is considered as the father of modern social psychology. The behavior of a person is determined by the combined influence of individual features of the person and the scientific aspects of the situation. As per him, a person's immediate environment profoundly influences the way he or she thinks, feels, and acts in social life. In certain situations, we find similar behavior from people regardless of how they differ from each other. For example, in a classroom, many students are there. Some are very talkative and extroverted, while some are reserved and introverted. But the interesting aspect is all of them are quiet in the presence of the teacher while the lecture is in progress. This is because we are taught to behave like this when the lecture is going on. Every individual is unique with different personality traits, attitudes, and beliefs about the world around them. Everyone has the unique genetic makeup that we inherit from our biological parents, and even more because of our different environments and experience we were exposed. Based on this, we develop dispositions, consistent preferences, way of thinking, and behavioral tendencies that manifest across varying situations over time. So, it is the power of the situation and the influence of the person's dispositions that matters. Presently, social psychologists try to understand how personality dispositions and situational factors interact to determine our thoughts, feelings, and actions. To simplify, we try to understand what type of situations makes particular type of person behave in a specific way. So, it is the influence of person's situation, his or her unique personality, attitudes, and values, and the way in which these factors interact. The second assumption in social psychology is behavior depends on a socially constructed view of reality. Virtually all human thoughts, feelings, and actions involve other people and are social in nature. Throughout our life, we regularly interact and encounter with much people. Even when we are alone, people and our thoughts regularly or constantly shape our thoughts. In fact, our view of reality is shaped by our connection with others. Similarly, our social comparison is essential to understand ourselves. We get a sense of how to act by introspecting right or wrong, good or bad, and true or false by examining what other people do or say. The aptitude, the choice of appropriate attire, knowledge of information, consequent behavior are products of the social reality one lives in. Regarding the third assumption, behavior is strongly influenced by our social cognition. To understand behavior, we must learn how people think about themselves and their social world. In reality, our opinions are strongly influenced by our social connections. For example, when there are elections, we try to understand what the quality developments each leader has done to the society through our friends, parents, elders, siblings, teachers, peer, media, advertisements, public opinion, and based on what we analyze and participate in voting. Regarding any products like beauty products, soaps, oil, cookwares, electrical items, we spend a great deal of time and energy to find out its public rating, opinion, suggestion, and try to understand them, and struggling to make sure of what they say is accurate or not. These social realities play a significant role in our daily life, and it has a powerful influence on the individual's social behavior. As per the fourth assumption, the best way to understand social behavior is to use the scientific method. It offers the best route to accurately understand the social behavior. To understand the causes and consequences of behavior, thoughts, feelings in social life, one should adopt the scientific method. Many fields like economics, sociology, anthropology, history, humanities, philosophy, etc., try to understand human behavior, but Only in psychology, scientific methods like use of experiments, testing, refining theories, etc., are adapted to understand the determinants of social behavior, which gives a clear and authentic information. As it applies intuitive thinking, it helps to get closer to the truth by providing more accurate conception of the way the society is. Social psychologists gain more knowledge by applying the scientific method regarding the determinants of human thoughts, feelings, and action. Let us see why the social psychologists rely more on scientific method of understanding the causes and consequences of social behavior. The human behavior is based on the thought process influenced by the environment and society, which occurs in the social context. The psychologist assumes this in different perspectives like behavioral, cognitive, biological, humanistic, psychodynamic, socio-cultural, and evolutionary. The major question to ponder is why and how people's perception and actions are influenced by the environment factors, that is, the social interactions. Let us first see the behaviorist assumption. They say psychology is scientific and should be tested in a scientific manner. They argue that only observable behavior should be measured, and if something cannot be seen, it does not exist. In addition, they believe we are born as a blank slate, and everything we know or do is learned from the environment we live in. To elaborate, behavior is based on the observable behavior without giving importance to mental processes such as thinking, which emphasizes that learning plays a key role in controlling and influencing all behaviors. It suggests only shown behaviors are observable and not mental processes. It was J.B. Watson who had introduced this idea of behaviorism, was influenced by the work of Ivan Pavlov. Watson opined that human behavior can be measured through observable behavior and not by the study of mind or consciousness. He formed and practiced these principles for animals, which were later open for humans. Later, these assumptions were followed by B.F. Skinner, the contemporary psychologist. Skinner uses behavior in a very simple way. He used to cure diseases and change the behavior of animals in a variety of settings. Let us see cognitive assumption. As per cognitive assumption, they see mind as a computer. They compare how we take in information, that is input, change or store it, that is process, and recall it when necessary, that is output. The mind is compared to the computer's hardware and the cognitive process to the computer's software. This is known as the computer analogy. As psychology is a science, it should be studied in an objective and measurable way. Although cognitive psychology focuses on internal mental processes, a scientific approach to the study of human behavior would still be advocated. The cognitive assumption focuses on the processing, organizing, storing, and retrieving of information and is concerned with the higher mental processes such as thinking, memory, etc. It covers the higher intellectual process as perceiving, believing, thinking, remembering, knowing, deciding, and so on. The word cognito means I think. Cognition is a mental process in which the information is obtained, processed, transferred, stored, retrieved, and used. It examines thinking, knowing, and understanding of words, solve problems, make decisions, use of language, and communicate our thoughts to others. The biological and physiological assumptions. These biological and physiological assumptions focus on this physiology and mental processes involved in all forms of behavior. Every human behavior is related to physiological changes within the body and mind. The working relationship between the body, behavior, and mental process is the focus of the biological assumption. The physiological assumption describes the role of nerve cells in different aspects of an individual's behavior in emotions, reasoning, problem solving, intelligence, speaking, etc. Different research tools are used to investigate the functioning of the brain and nerve impulses and focuses mainly on the role of heredity in normal and abnormal behavior patterns. In recent years, psychologists are focusing on the influence of heredity on personality characteristics and abilities. They are also concentrating on behavior genetics to determine the influence of genes and the environment on individual differences. Carl Laxley specifically focused on the continuous activity of the brain and its interaction with the environment and a dynamic composite of the interacting symptoms. Laxley emphasized fatigue, lower motivation, and poor recall as the three factors that are especially important in forgetting. The psychologists believe that different parts of the brain can be identified as having specific functions. The cerebral cortex is the gray matter on the surface of the brain and is responsible for higher level cognitive functions. The frontal lobe is responsible for thinking. The hypothalamus is responsible for stress and emotion. Thereafter, a psychopath may have a damaged hypothalamus. They also believe that behavior can also be explained in terms of hormones. Hormones are biochemical substances that are produced in part of the body, and the variation in production is very powerful in behavior. Now let us see the humanistic assumptions. Humanistic assumptions emphasize the psychological health of the human beings through psychotherapy, focusing on the individual's free will, values, and goodness of people. This humanistic perspective or assumption was developed by Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers, and Viktor Frankl. It is a very different view on human beings compared to the assumption of psychoanalysis and behavioralism psychology. This focuses on freedom in controlling human behavior. According to them, each person is a unique individual and experiences the world differently. It views all human beings have a basic, powerful, inborn tendency to grow and improve to their fullest potential and a desire to take control of their own lives. Humanistic psychologists are the least scientific of all others because the principle which they focus is very difficult to investigate scientifically because it characterizes by philosophical aspects of human life. Let's see psychodynamic assumption. Sigmund Freud developed the psychodynamic technique used to study abnormal behavior. Freud felt the root of psychological problems or motives of social and aggressive nature which stay at the unconscious level of the mind. The term psychodynamics is used because these unconscious motives and conflict influence our behavior even though we don't know they exist. They are revealed in disguised symbolic ways, such as in dreams, in slip of the tongue, and sometimes in psychological problems. Freud also focused on early childhood and emphasized that early experiences have major influences on personality development. The psychodynamic perspective is widely known for treating maladaptive behavior by bringing the unconscious causes of distress to the conscious level. Freud believed that the mind was divided into three parts. One third of the mind is conscious and the rest is unconscious. In between these two is the preconscious. The awareness is consciousness and unaware is unconsciousness. But effect of our behavior and the preconscious is neither conscious or unconscious. For example, sleep or dream. Now let us see the socio-cultural assumptions. Socio-cultural assumptions tries to understand how behavior and thinking vary across diverse cultures. The way human beings socialize and develop from their early life to old age is explained through socio-cultural perspective. Socio-cultural psychology explains how our personality, beliefs, attitudes, skills, and values are shaped by our culture, ethnicity, gender, religion, and other important socio-cultural factors. It is concerned with how people interact and interdependent and intercoordinate with each other to influence and to be influenced by each other. Now let's see the evolutionary assumptions. Evolutionary assumptions focus on how natural and selection favors traits that promote the continuation of one's genes. It explains how does evolution influence behavior tendencies and how that behavior or structure aids in adapting to the environment. This assumption is based on the work developed by Charles Darwin, who popularized the theory of evolution. The evolutionary perspective focuses on the role of physical structure and behavior play in the adaptation process of an organism to the environment. Darwin popularized three basic components: variance, inheritance, and selection. Variance refers to the fact that organisms belonging to a given species vary in different ways. Every human being has individual differences by shape, size, intelligence, personality, health, and so on. Inheritance refers to the fact that some of these variations can be passed from generation to generation. Selection refers to the particular behavior the organism has adopted to best suit their environment. These are the different scientific assumptions appropriate to understand humans' different characteristics, need, evolution, style, and many other things. By comprising one or more assumptions, it will be easy to understand why and how humans behave the way they do. These assumptions and perspectives are effective ways to understand different problems of people. However, these assumptions are not the only perspective of psychology. In fact, the present psychologists are increasingly involved in working on this aspect, and in future, more assumptions and ways will be developed to understand people in a better way. Thank you.